The sleek alien ships appeared in Earth's orbit on a Tuesday morning. They came without warning. 7 vessels shaped like silver teardrops that dwarfed humanity's largest space stations. Commander Alan Wright stood at the viewing deck of Earth Orbital Station Alpha, his uniform pressed and ready for humanity's first official meeting with alien life. At 45, Alan had spent 20 years preparing for this moment, though no one had truly believed it would happen in his lifetime. "Status report," he said, his voice calm despite the rapid beating of his heart. "All systems normal, sir," replied Lieutenant Scott Peterson from the communications station. "The alien fleet has maintained position for the past hour. They're scanning us, but the scans appear non-aggressive." Alan nodded. "And our guests?" "Diplomatic team is ready in Docking Bay 3. Susan Miller waited in the docking bay with her small team of linguists and diplomats, a tall woman with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. She had been Earth's top negotiator in 3 global crises. Now she faced the ultimate negotiation. "Remember," she told her team, "we represent all of humanity today. Let's make a good first impression." The alien shuttle docked with a soft hiss. When the doors opened, Susan's practiced smile froze slightly. The aliens were tall, with blue-tinted skin and 4 arms. Their leader wore elaborate metallic robes that seemed to flow like water. "I am High Envoy Xandoral of the Galactic Council," the alien said in perfect English. "We have been observing your world for some time." Susan recovered quickly. "Welcome to Earth. I'm Susan Miller, Earth's diplomatic liaison. We're honored to make your acquaintance." The meeting moved to the station's conference room. As pleasantries were exchanged, Captain Diane Foster watched from the security center, her eyes narrowed in suspicion. "They're scanning our weapons systems," she said quietly to her second-in-command. "Run a full sweep of their shuttle. Something feels off." The conversation in the conference room had taken a strange turn. "Your species has developed at an alarming rate," Xandoral was saying. "Unauthorized colonization of Mars and your lunar settlements are violations of Council protocols." Alan frowned. "Unauthorized. We weren't aware we needed permission to explore our own solar system." The alien's 4 hands made a complex gesture. "All developing species require Council oversight. We are prepared to offer Earth protected status, which would grant you certain privileges under our guardianship." Susan leaned forward. "What exactly does protected status entail?" "The surrender of independent military development, Council approval for all technological advancements, and a small resource tribute." Xandoral's voice remained pleasant. "A small price for Council protection." The room fell silent. Susan exchanged glances with Alan. "I appreciate your offer," she said carefully, "but Earth is not looking to surrender its sovereignty. Perhaps we could discuss a mutual alliance instead." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Xandoral's eyes, all 3 of them, narrowed slightly. "That is unfortunate. We had hoped humans would be reasonable." In the security center, Diane's console beeped urgently. "They're powering up something on their shuttle," she said, already moving toward the door. "Alert the commander." The meeting ended abruptly. As the alien delegation returned to their shuttle, Xandoral turned to Susan. "You have made a grave miscalculation. The Council does not offer twice." After the aliens departed, Diane approached Alan with her findings. "They mapped our entire defense network, sir, and I detected transmissions to the main fleet containing detailed scans of Earth's military installations." Alan's face hardened. "So this wasn't a diplomatic mission at all?" "No, sir. I think it was reconnaissance." That night, as Earth's leaders debated what to do next, the alien fleet departed as suddenly as it had arrived. But in their wake, they left behind an uneasy feeling. "They'll be back," Susan said as she watched the ships vanish from the station's monitors. "And next time, they won't be asking nicely." Diane nodded grimly. "Then we better start getting ready." 3 months passed quickly. Earth's governments worked together in a rare show of unity, preparing quietly for what many felt was coming. Military bases hummed with activity. Scientists worked around the clock. But on the surface, daily life continued as normal. President Olivia Martinez sat in the White House Situation Room, surrounded by her Joint Chiefs of Staff. At 58, she had seen her share of crises, but nothing like this. Still, her hands were steady as she reviewed the latest defense reports. The Mars colony shield upgrades, she asked, looking up at Defense Secretary William Jones. Ahead of schedule, he replied. General Hughes has doubled the defensive fleet stationed there as well. Before she could respond, every screen in the room flickered. The image of High Envoy Xandoril appeared, but gone was the diplomatic pleasantness from their first meeting. His blue face looked stern. People of Earth, he began, his voice echoing in rooms across the planet as the signal overrode all broadcasting channels. The Galactic Council has deliberated on your case. Your species has been found guilty of unlicensed technological development and unauthorized expansion beyond your homeworld. The room fell silent as everyone watched. For these crimes, and for your refusal to accept Council protection, the Galactic Council hereby declares a state of war against Earth and all human settlements. You have 72 hours to surrender your military capabilities and accept Council rule or face the consequences. The transmission ended abruptly. For a moment, no one spoke. Then President Martinez picked up her coffee mug, took a slow sip, and set it down carefully. How are we looking on those shield upgrades? She asked, as if there had been no interruption. A small smile crossed William's face. They'll be ready in 48 hours, Madam President. She nodded. And Dr. Bradley's project. Dr. Nathan Bradley, head of the newly formed Alien Technology Division, cleared his throat. We've made significant progress reverse engineering the scanning technology they used during their visit. We believe we found a weakness in their shield systems. Good. The President stood up. Ladies and gentlemen, it seems we have a war to prepare for. But remember, this is just another Tuesday. The room filled with brief, determined laughter. In Earth orbit, Colonel George Campbell was overseeing a supply run to Lunar Base Alpha when the declaration came through. His crew fell silent, looking to him for reaction. Well, he said, scratching his chin, that complicates the schedule. He turned to his communications officer. Send a message to my wife, Carol. Tell her I might be late for dinner. Aliens declared war. The usual. The young officer stared at him for a moment, then laughed nervously as he realized the colonel was keeping things light intentionally. Back on Earth, in a research lab buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Lisa Warren and Eric Taylor worked frantically, surrounded by holographic displays showing alien technology schematics. I think I found something, Lisa said, pushing her glasses up. Look at this power fluctuation pattern in their shield systems. There's a cycle, a rhythm to it. Eric moved to her side, his eyes widening. That's a vulnerability. If we time our attacks to match that rhythm, we could punch right through, Lisa finished for him. In the Mars colony, Commander Ryan Powell gathered his team. Unlike Earth, Mars would likely face the first attack. Being farther from home made them vulnerable, but it also made them determined. They think we'll fold, Ryan told his team. They think we'll panic. But they don't understand humans very well, do they? His second-in-command, Major Heather Rodriguez, grinned. No, sir, they don't. We've been hiding some surprises in the crater defenses. Let them come. As the 72-hour deadline approached, humanity didn't cower or surrender. Instead, they prepared. In homes across Earth, people stocked supplies. Veterans volunteered to serve again. Factories switched production to needed materials without even being asked. When the Council's deadline arrived, Earth's answer was simple: silence. The war had begun, but not as the aliens expected. On the Galactic Council's capital world, Centaurus Prime, the War Council gathered in a massive chamber with walls that shimmered like flowing water. 8 alien species sat around a floating circular table, their faces lit by holographic displays showing Earth and its colonies. Admiral Zex Toril, a senior Kelvari military leader and cousin to High Envoy Xandoril, stood to address the council. "The humans have ignored our deadline," he said, his four arms making dismissive gestures. As expected, species at their development level often display irrational pride before accepting reality. The Drather representative, a reptilian being with golden scales, leaned forward. "How long until they surrender?" "Our models predict between 2 and 5 Earth days," Admiral Zex Toril replied confidently. "Their physical capabilities are inferior to most Council races. They tire easily, lack natural armor, and have no significant biological advantages." Holographic images of human soldiers appeared, alongside data comparing them to Council species warriors. The differences seemed stark. "Their space combat capabilities are equally primitive," continued the Admiral. "Simple kinetic weapons, basic energy shields, and limited faster-than-light travel. We have identified all their military installations. A demonstration strike on their Mars colony should force an immediate surrender." The Council members nodded in agreement, except for one. Intelligence Officer Vrelnox, a slender being with pale skin and large, observant eyes, stood up. "I must register concern," she said, her voice soft but clear. "Our psychological profile of humans is incomplete. My research suggests they may not react as expected." Admiral Zex Toril's face darkened. "Your concerns are noted, Officer Vrelnox, but the battle plan is approved. The attack fleet departs immediately." As the Council meeting ended, Vrelnox returned to her research station. The data scrolling across her screens told a story few in the Council wanted to hear. Humans had a strange history. They fought among themselves constantly, yet united instantly against outside threats. They created art about war, prepared for disasters that might never come, and seemed to thrive under pressure. "They don't think like us," she murmured to herself. Meanwhile on Earth, in a military lab beneath Denver, Lisa Warren and Eric Taylor stood before General Patricia Adams, explaining their discovery. "It's their shield technology," Lisa explained, pointing to a simulation. "It cycles every 3.7 seconds, creating a tiny window of vulnerability." "How did you find this so quickly?" General Adams asked, impressed. "Their technology is hundreds of years ahead of ours." Eric smiled. "That's just it, General. They've had it so long, they stopped looking for flaws. We thought like humans, not like aliens who've never had to fight for survival." Lisa nodded. "They design their systems to be efficient. We design ours to take a beating and keep working." "Can we exploit this weakness?" the General asked. "Already working on it," Eric replied. "A precise hit during the cycle window could collapse their entire shield." In orbit around Mars, hidden weapons platforms powered up silently. Commander Ryan Powell reviewed the final preparations with his team. "The Council thinks Mars is lightly defended," he said, a hint of a smile on his face. "Let's show them how wrong they are." Major Heather Rodriguez checked the status of the hidden weapons grid. All stealth platforms are operational. They won't see them until it's too late. On a farm in Iowa, an elderly farmer named Ben Miller watched the news about the coming alien attack. Without a word, he went to his barn and opened a dusty trunk. Inside lay his old military uniform and medals from wars long past. His wife Jenny found him there, holding the uniform. "They'll need everyone," he said simply. Jenny nodded. "I'll pack your things." Across the planet, humanity prepared, not with panic, but with resolve. They'd faced extinction before. From nature, from each other, from their own creations. This was just a new chapter in the old human story of survival. And as the Council war fleet jumped into hyperspace, heading for Mars, they had no idea what awaited them. The Council's war fleet appeared near Mars in a flash of blue light. 20 large warships, each carrying enough firepower to level a city, moved into attack formation. From the command ship, Admiral Zex Toril watched with confidence. "Scan for defenses," he ordered. "Scanning complete," his officer replied. "We detect only 3 small defensive platforms and a handful of fighter ships. Their main base is located in Olympus Mons crater." The admiral smiled. "As expected. Begin the attack. Target their defensive platforms first." On Mars Defense Station Alpha, Commander Ryan Powell watched the alien fleet approach. His face remained calm as he opened a secure channel. "All units, this is Commander Powell. Remember your training. Wait for my signal." Major Heather Rodriguez stood at her weapons console, fingers hovering over the controls. Around her, the crew worked quietly, their faces tense but determined. "Enemy ships firing," called out a young lieutenant. The first shots from the Council fleet streaked toward Mars, aimed at the visible defense platforms. The platform's shields lit up under the attack but held firm. "Return fire," Ryan ordered. "Standard weapons only. Make it look good." The visible defense platforms fired back, their shots carefully calibrated to look threatening but cause minimal damage to the alien shields. Admiral Zex Toril laughed. "Their weapons barely scratch our shields. This will be over quickly." His second-in-command nodded in agreement. "Shall we target their main colony next?" "Yes, prepare the main cannons." As the alien fleet moved closer to Mars, Ryan watched his tactical display. The enemy ships were now in perfect position. "Now," he said quietly. Heather pressed her hand against the activation panel. Stealth platforms activated. Targeting systems locked. Suddenly, all around the Council fleet, space itself seemed to shimmy as 50 hidden weapons platforms dropped their cloaking fields. Before the aliens could react, the platforms fired in perfect unison. Each shot hit precisely when the alien shields cycled into their vulnerability window. On the Council command ship, alarms blared. "Shields failing," shouted an officer in panic. "Unknown weapons platforms detected." "Impossible," Admiral Zex Toril shouted. "Where did they come from?" Before he could issue new orders, 12 Council ships lost shields completely. Human weapons tore through their hulls, causing explosions to bloom in the blackness of space. Back on Earth, people gathered around screens watching the battle. In a bar in Chicago, the crowd erupted in cheers as they saw the Council ships explode. Factory manager Keith Davis watched the broadcast, then turned to his employees. "Let's get back to work. Those soldiers need more parts." That night, he retooled his entire automotive plant to produce military components. Similar scenes played out across the planet. College student Amanda Wilson organized her dorm building into a volunteer corps. "They'll need help with everything from medical support to logistics," she told her friends. "We can't all fight in space, but we can all do something." In his workshop, retired engineer Peter Jackson sketched improved weapon designs based on what he saw of the alien ships. The weak points seemed to be near their engine housings. He muttered to himself, sending his notes to the Defense Department. Meanwhile, eccentric billionaire Gregory Moore watched the battle footage in his underground lab. Surrounded by advanced technology, he made final adjustments to a strange device. "Almost ready," he said to his assistant. "If I'm right, this will cut off their faster-than-light communications. They won't be able to call for help." As the battle continued around Mars, the Council fleet began to retreat, having lost nearly half their ships. Admiral Zex Toril stared in disbelief at the destruction. This was supposed to be a simple demonstration. How could they have prepared so thoroughly? In the Mars Command Center, Ryan and Heather watched the alien ships withdraw. "Should we pursue?" Heather asked. Ryan shook his head. "No need. They'll be back with more ships soon." But now they know this won't be the easy victory they expected. He looked at the tactical display showing the retreating Council fleet. The real fight is just beginning. 6 weeks into the war, and nothing was going according to the Galactic Council's plan. Earth should have fallen in days. Instead, humans were fighting back with unexpected effectiveness. Vice Admiral Linda Nelson stood on the bridge of the EDF Defiance, Earth's newest warship. At 42, she had risen quickly through the ranks due to her brilliant tactical mind. Now she was about to lead Earth's first major counteroffensive. "All ships report ready, Admiral," her communications officer said. Linda nodded. "Begin Operation Hornet's Nest." Across the Jupiter sector, 12 small Earth ships jumped into different locations simultaneously. Each targeted a Council supply depot or transport, hit hard and fast, then disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. On the Council capital, the War Minister glared at Admiral Zextoral. "Explain these losses," he demanded. "Their ships are smaller but faster than ours," Zextoral replied, his confidence now replaced with worry. "They're using hit-and-run tactics that make them difficult to track. And the Mars defeat. They knew about our shield cycling vulnerability. Somehow they discovered it in just weeks, when it took our engineers centuries to develop the technology." The War Minister's eyes narrowed. "You assured me humans were technologically inferior." "They were. They still are. But they're adapting at an alarming rate." Meanwhile, in a neutral space station near the Centauri system, Ambassador Daniel White met secretly with representatives from 3 Council species who had opposed the war. "My government is prepared to discuss separate peace terms," he told them quietly. One of the aliens, a Thoraxian with crystalline skin, leaned forward. Many Council members were pressured into supporting this war. The Kelveri threatened trade sanctions if we didn't join them. Daniel nodded. "We suspected as much. We have no quarrel with species who were coerced." Back on Earth, in a secure communications facility, Dr. Kevin Harris and his team worked tirelessly to decode Council transmissions. Screens filled with alien symbols surrounded them as complex algorithms processed the data. "I've got it," shouted a young programmer. "The encryption key changes based on prime number sequences." Kevin reviewed the code, then grinned. "Upload this to the fleet immediately. With their communications decoded, we can predict every move they make." When a military officer asked how they'd managed to crack codes that should have taken years to decode, Kevin shrugged. "We've been deciphering enemy communications since before we had computers. This is just Tuesday for us." In his secret lab, Gregory Moore activated his FTL disruptor network. Across 3 star systems, Council battle groups suddenly found themselves cut off from command, their faster-than-light communications reduced to static. "It worked," Gregory exclaimed, watching the data stream in. "They're completely isolated from their chain of command." Council Admiral Zextoral paced his command deck as his communications officers tried desperately to restore contact with headquarters. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Humans shouldn't have technology to disrupt quantum entanglement communications." "They didn't," his science officer replied, "until they studied our ships and improved upon our designs." Zextoral stopped pacing. A terrible realization dawned on him. Humans weren't fighting by the established rules of galactic warfare. They weren't following the expected patterns or respecting technological limitations. They were innovating, adapting, and overcoming barriers that should have taken centuries to breach. On the Defiance, Linda received reports of the successful disruption of Council communications. "Perfect timing," she said. "Begin Phase 2. Earth's small fleet regrouped and targeted the largest isolated Council battle group. Without coordination from their command, the alien ships formed a defensive position, following standard protocols. Linda smiled. "They're so predictable. Target their flagship first, all weapons." As Earth ships moved into attack position, Linda thought about how the Council had expected humanity to respond to threats with fear and surrender. Instead, they had unleashed human ingenuity, the very quality that had allowed the species to survive countless challenges throughout their history. "Fire," she ordered. The battle was joined, and once again, humanity was about to demonstrate why underestimating them was the Council's greatest mistake. 4 months into the war, Admiral Zextoral stood before the Galactic Council's War Minister. The Grand Chamber felt cold as the minister's 3 eyes stared at him with obvious disappointment. You promised a swift victory, the war minister said. Yet 4 months later, humans not only hold their ground, but have begun capturing our technology and improving upon it. Zextoral's 4 hands moved nervously. Humans are not what we expected. Explain. They don't fight like any species we've encountered. They adapt too quickly. They take risks no rational species would consider. He paused, and they seem to become more creative when they're backed into a corner. The war minister's expression darkened. The Council cannot accept defeat. We will authorize a direct attack on Earth itself. Gather our remaining fleets. On Earth, in the Pentagon's command center, Defense Secretary William Jones briefed President Martinez on the latest intelligence. Our sources indicate they're planning something big, a massive fleet gathering beyond Neptune. President Martinez nodded calmly. They're getting desperate. Is our defense grid ready? Yes, Madam President, and we have a surprise for them. The President smiled. Good, let them come. 3 days later, the largest Council fleet ever assembled jumped into Earth orbit. 100 warships, led by Admiral Zextoral himself, prepared to deliver the blow that would finally force humanity to surrender. Target their major cities, he ordered. Once they see we can destroy them from orbit, they'll have no choice but to. He stopped mid-sentence. His tactical officer was staring at the screens in disbelief. Sir, I'm detecting a defensive grid around the entire planet. The Admiral moved to the screen. What he saw made his blood run cold. A network of defensive platforms surrounded Earth, far more advanced than anything humans should have been able to develop. That's impossible, he whispered. Those are based on Council designs, but improved. Fleet Commander Sharon Douglas watched from her command ship as the alien fleet approached Earth. At 38, she had spent her career preparing for threats most people considered science fiction. Now she was Earth's last line of defense. They've spotted our defense grid, her tactical officer reported. Sharon nodded. Right on schedule. Activate the grid and prepare all ships for counterattack. The defensive platforms came to life, their weapons locking onto the Council fleet. But these weren't simple weapons. They were based on captured Council technology, merged with human innovation. Fire, Sharon ordered. The platforms fired in perfect synchronization. Each shot bypassed the alien shields completely, targeting specific vulnerabilities that humans had discovered through careful study of captured ships. On the Council command ship, chaos erupted. How are they penetrating our shields? Zextoral shouted as his ship shuddered under the attack. They've somehow modified their weapons to match our shield frequencies, his science officer replied in shock. That should be technologically impossible for them. The battle raged for hours. Council ships, despite their superior technology, found themselves outmaneuvered and outfought by smaller, more agile human vessels. On the Council capital, Intelligence Officer Vrilnox presented her completed human psychological profile to the Galactic Senate. My analysis is complete, she said, her voice echoing through the chamber. Humans don't respond to threats by surrendering. They respond by innovating. The more desperate their situation, the more creative they become. She displayed the battle footage from Earth. War wasn't a deterrent, it was a catalyst. As the Council senators watched in stunned silence, Vrilnox continued. They've compressed centuries of technological development into months, and they're still accelerating. One senator spoke up. What do you suggest we do? Vrilnox's answer was simple. Make peace, while we still can. Back at Earth, Admiral Zextoral gave the order he never thought he would give. All ships, retreat. The mighty Council fleet turned and fled from Earth, leaving behind a third of their ships destroyed or disabled. Sharon watched them go. Should we pursue? Her second-in-command asked. No, she replied. They've learned their lesson. Now it's time for diplomacy. Across Earth, people celebrated the victory. But the wise ones knew this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of humanity's emergence onto the galactic stage. 6 months after the Galactic Council had declared war, expecting Earth's quick surrender, their remaining ships were in full retreat across all fronts. News of Earth's successful defense had spread throughout the galaxy, inspiring several Council member species to break away and seek separate peace. In the White House, President Olivia Martinez prepared for a historic broadcast. Her staff had worked for days to set up a direct communication link to the Galactic Council's central chamber. "Ready when you are, Madam President," her communications director said. Olivia straightened her jacket and nodded. "Let's make history." Her image appeared before the Galactic Council, where representatives from dozens of species had gathered for this unprecedented event. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice calm and confident. "You declared war expecting our surrender. Instead, you got our attention. Now let's talk about what peace looks like." On the council capitol, the war minister stared at the human leader's image. After so much destruction, he had expected anger, threats, or demands for revenge. The measured tone caught him by surprise. "We are prepared to discuss terms," he replied cautiously. 3 days later, in a neutral space station orbiting a star at the edge of Council space, delegations from Earth and the Council met for peace talks. Susan Miller, who had faced high envoy Xandoral during first contact, now led Earth's diplomatic team. The talks were tense at first. The Council expected harsh demands from the humans, but when Susan presented Earth's proposal, many aliens looked confused. "You're not demanding reparations?" asked a Drather representative. "Or territorial concessions?" added another council member. Susan shook her head. "What we want is equality. A restructuring of the Galactic Council to ensure all spacefaring species have equal representation and rights." The council representatives exchanged glances. This was not the behavior of a species that had been attacked without provocation and then successfully defended itself. "We don't understand," the war minister admitted. "You could demand much more." Susan smiled. "Revenge is short-sighted. Partnership is forward-thinking." As the negotiations continued, Admiral Linda Nelson joined the Earth delegation. When asked by a council military officer how humans had recovered so quickly from the initial attacks, she gave an answer that would later become famous throughout the galaxy. "You mistook our initial shrug for apathy," she said. "It wasn't. It was just us rolling up our sleeves." 2 weeks later, a new galactic charter was signed. Earth became a founding member of the Reformed Alliance, alongside several former Council species who had broken away during the conflict. As the ceremony concluded, Commander Alan Wright, who had met the first Council ships 6 months earlier, found himself standing next to a Kelveri delegate. "You know," Alan said casually, "you could have just said hello." The alien looked at him for a moment, then made a sound that Alan realized was laughter. Back on Earth, life quickly returned to a new normal. The technological advances made during the war transformed human society. Gregory Moore's FTL communication system was adapted for civilian use, connecting the solar system like never before. In research labs around the world, scientists like Lisa Warren and Eric Taylor worked alongside alien counterparts, sharing knowledge and building bridges between cultures. Dr. Kevin Harris headed a new Galactic Translation Institute, ensuring that misunderstandings like those that had led to the war would never happen again. 1 year after the war ended, Earth launched its first true interstellar colony ship. As it prepared to depart, President Martinez addressed the assembled crowd. "The war that was meant to end human independence instead unleashed it on a cosmic scale," she said. "Today, we take our place among the stars not as conquerors, but as explorers and friends." As the ship disappeared into the depths of space, humanity looked to the future with characteristic optimism. The galaxy had tried to make them kneel. They had simply shrugged and stood taller.